What's going on, YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Atlantic Division matchup between the Atlantic Division President's Trophy Eastern Conference champion Boston Bruins taking on the second wild card Florida Panthers. This is a really interesting matchup. This is a new matchup that we haven't really seen in a little while. Two very different stories here, but it's kind of interesting because, well, the irony kind of writes itself. The Florida Panthers were the team to beat last year, right? They won the President's Trophy, won the Atlantic Division, and now this year they play the team that was in their spot last year in the Boston Bruins. The Bruins' Renaissance season has been incredible. They broke records for breaking the most points in a regular season, 65 wins, 135 points. This is a historic regular season for the Boston Bruins, but none of that matters because we have a new season, and that is the playoffs. Can the Bruins hold on to that going into the postseason? Now, the Bruins do have a little bit of adversity going into the playoffs this year. They currently have 6 injuries, lots of them to varying degrees, but there is a couple injuries to watch for. Linus Ullmark missed the last game of the season against the Canadiens. It seems like just more of a rest. It hasn't been confirmed, but undisclosed injury. Hopefully everything's okay there. Thomas Nosek was out with an illness. He seems to be day-to-day, so he'll probably be back. David Krejci out with a lower body injury. That was a couple of weeks ago, so we expect him to be ready to go. But again, going to be a game-time decision. Same thing for Derek Forbort. He missed the rest of the regular season. That was last month. Nick Foligno, he's been out since the end of February. Does it sound like he'll be ready for the playoffs? But again, it seems like Coach Montgomery has been saying it's very optimistic that he'll be back, so we'll see what happens with Foligno. And, of course, Patrice Bergeron, who also did not play against the Montreal Canadiens. But, again, I would say 95% of those guys will be back in the lineup. Maybe one or two of them doesn't end up playing game one, but I expect them to be ready to go. I think a lot of that is maintenance and kind of keeping from another bigger injury. So that's what we're looking at for the Bruins. For the Florida Panthers, there's only 2 injuries, and one of them is not really all that surprising. Taking a look at the Florida Panthers right now, we have Patrick Hornqvist, who is out with a concussion. He will not be back for the rest of the season. So don't expect to see Hornqvist at any point in the playoffs this year for the Florida Panthers. Sam Bennett has been out with a groin injury since last month. He has been on the injured reserve since March 20th. So again, maybe a game time decision for Sam Bennett, but we'll see what happens there. That's a pretty pivotal piece down the middle out for the Panthers. The season matchup is pretty split, 2-2 for each of these teams. Each of these teams picked up a pair of wins against each other. Really close competitive matchup between these two teams during the regular season, so there's no real edge there. Goals for this season, the Bruins scored the second most goals out of anybody in the NHL this year, over 3.5 goals per game. Same thing for the Florida Panthers. They're also top 5 in that category, so 2 top 5 goal-scoring teams in the league. That should be pretty interesting. Goals against. Florida's goals against, 21st in the NHL against Boston's first. They are number 1 for goals against in the NHL, so they have given up the least amount of goals per game over the entirety of this season. So the Bruins are legit in terms of scoring and defensive structure. Normally, there's a compromise for one of those. If you're very good offensively, you're usually a little bit, weaker defensively. Not the case for the Bruins. They are good on both sides of the ice, and I think the Bruins, a huge part of their success this season has been because of those 2 categories. Power play, both of these teams are just outside the top 10. Penalty kill, Boston has the best penalty kill in the league, and Florida does not. They are 25th in the NHL. So the edge goes to the Bruins in terms of special teams as well. In terms of forwards, defense, and goaltending matchups, for the forward side of things, the Bruins have a lot of depth. Really good Bruins team. Sometimes there's a little bit of a question in terms of, down the line a little bit, right? Of course, Pasternak can score goals, but Taylor Hall, Jake DeBrusk, those guys, you want to see those guys continue to produce in the playoffs. The edge, I have to go with the Bruins. They just are so good down the middle. Bergeron, Coyle, Krejci, just a ton of depth in those top three spots. And Florida's pretty good as well, but not compared to the Boston Bruins. Defensively, got to give some respect to that Florida Panthers blue line, but compared to the Bruins, it's definitely the Bruins defense here as well. They just have more depth. This is a tough matchup for the Florida Panthers. Goaltending, the same exact story. Alex Lyon has been very hot for the Florida Panthers. A huge reason they were able to sneak into the playoffs. I think Alex Lyon gets the start in Game 1. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but he's the guy that got them to the playoffs. So I would be very shocked if they went with Bobrovsky. But again, kind of a wait and see what happens there. That'll be a game time decision, I would guess. I'm going to give some respect here to the Florida Panthers. I think the Bruins, a lot of people will sit here and say, listen, this thing's going to be over in 5 or 6 games. I'm going to give the Florida Panthers the respect that they deserve. Paul Maurice's team was able to push their way to the playoffs. I think they're going to play a pretty good series here against Boston. A lot of high-scoring games. I think we could see some 6-4, 5-6 games. I'm really excited for this series. It's going to be an entertaining one. A lot of people will be watching this one. But I am going with the Boston Bruins winning this series in 7 games. I think they just have more firepower, more depth. Their goaltending is a lot more stable than the Florida Panthers is. I love what Alex Lyon has done here over the past 2 or 3 weeks. It's a great storyline, but come playoff time against Linus Ullmark, this is going to be really a tough matchup head-to-head, and I think that the Bruins and Ullmark will be heading to the second round. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of these two teams? Let me know your guys' predictions down below. Who will win this series in the Atlantic Division? Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time. Peace.